Figures of Speech in American English, Part 1.
What is a figure of speech? A figure of speech is a deliberate manipulation of ordinary language in order to create a literary effect. Examples of figurative language are found in novels, poems, essays, and plays. There are hundreds of figures of speech, which can be divided into schemes and tropes. Schemes are figures of speech that rearrange word order for a certain effect.
I live to travel. I travel to live.
Tropes use words in a way that differs from their literal meaning. Juliet is the sun, says Romeo. This is a trope. Specifically, it's a type of trope called a metaphor. The opposite of figurative language is literal language. It is the type of straightforward writing you'll find on road signs, in office memos, and in research papers. Here are 20 of the most commonly used figures of speech.
Number 1.
Alliteration.
Alliteration is the repeating of consonant sounds right next to each other, which creates a memorable or melodic effect.
Example:
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Number 2.
Antithesis.
Antithesis is a literary technique that places opposite things or ideas next to one another in order to draw out their contrast.
Example:
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, by Charles Dickens, in A Tale of Two Cities.
Number 3.
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe as a figure of speech is when a character addresses someone or something that isn't present or cannot respond. The character might speak to someone deceased, an inanimate object, or a concept.
Example:
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet.
Number 4.
Circumlocution.
Circumlocution is the use of a purposely wordy description. You can think of it as talking in circles.
Example:
In the Harry Potter series, most characters don't say Lord Voldemort's name. Instead, they use this circumlocution, he who must not be named.
Number 5.
Epigram.
An epigram is a clever and memorable statement. You will find epigrams in speeches, poetry, and at the front of a book.
Example:
No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Number 6.
Euphemism.
A euphemism is a way to say something in an understated manner, often to avoid difficult topics like money, death, or sex.
Example:
Death can be an uncomfortable subject, so we've developed many euphemisms to avoid confronting it head-on. Rather than telling a friend that a relative died, you might say, they kicked the bucket, passed away, or are no longer with us.
Number 7.
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole is a deliberate exaggeration that adds emphasis, urgency, or excitement to a statement.
Example:
If I don't eat soon, I'm going to die of hunger.
Number 8.
Irony.
Irony is a situation that subverts or lessens the effectiveness, power, or ability of a reader's expectations.
Example:
The police station down the street and around the corner got robbed last night.
Number 9.
Lightides.
Lightides use a double negative to create a positive.
Example:
I appreciate your persistence, but that's never not going to be wrong.
Number 10.
Metaphor.
A metaphor is the direct comparison of dissimilar things to create more vivid imagery or understanding.
Example:
My friend's sister, Sharon, is a night owl.
Number 11.
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm refers to the use of words that mean the opposite of what you really want to say, especially in order to insult someone, or to show irritation, or just to be funny.
Example.
They're really on top of things. Describing people who are very disorganized is using sarcasm.
Number 12.
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like what it means.
Example.
Because of how they're made, the rubber soles slap against the bottom of your feet as you walk, making a flip-flop sound. The name flip-flop is thus an example of onomatopoeia.
Number 13.
Oxymoron.
An oxymoron is a phrase that uses two contradictory words to create a new meaning.
Example.
That strawberry cake was awfully good.
Number 14.
Paradox.
A paradox is a statement that appears to contradict itself, but contains some truth, theme, or humor.
Example.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. George Orwell, Animal Farm.
Number 15.
Personification.
Personification is assigning human attributes to non-human things.
Example.
The floorboards groaned under the weight of each step.
Number 16.
Pleonasm.
Pleonasm is the use of more words than necessary to convey meaning. A writer might use pleonasm for humor or emphasis, or they might not realize they're using extra words at all.
Example.
The burning fire warmed the whole house.
Number 17.
Pun.
A pun is a form of wordplay that purposely substitutes words that sound similar, but have different meanings.
Example.
Mine is a long and a sad tale, said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. It is a long tale certainly, said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. But why do you call it sad, Lewis Carroll? Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Number 18.
Simile.
Simile compares two dissimilar things, using like or as. The goal of simile is to give the reader a more vivid understanding of something.
Example.
It was the first real day of summer, and by the time she came back indoors, she was as red as a tomato.
Number 19.
Synecdoche.
Synecdoche is when a smaller unit is used to signify a larger unit, or vice versa.
Example.
New England won the game by a touchdown. Here, New England means New England's football team.
Number 20.
Understatement.
Understatement is the intentional downplaying of a situation. This can create a humorous or deadpan effect in writing.
Example.
I have to have this operation. It isn't very serious. I have this tiny little tumor on the brain. J.D. Salinger, The Catcher in the Rye.
Figures of speech examples in literature.
Figures of speech are around us all the time. And that's not hyperbole, but it's the deliberate deployment of them that makes writing stand out. Did you catch that alliteration? The following are examples of figures of speech in literature and poetry.
Poems for practice.
1.
Metaphor in Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill. For the caged bird sings of freedom. In her poem, Maya Angelou uses the extended metaphor of caged and free birds to display the difference between black and white Americans.
2.
Antithesis in Beloved by Toni Morrison said, he says, me. And you. We got more yesterday than anybody. We need some kind of tomorrow. In this passage, Paldi speaks to Seth and insists she quit dwelling on her past.
As always, thanks a lot for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And before you go, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and click that tiny bell. And don't forget to check out some of our other videos on the channel. On to the next time.